Have you ever heard of Itzhak Bentov? Few people know this name, but he was a brilliant scientist and inventor, with more than 30 registered patents, whose creations are still used in cardiac surgeries to this day. But what makes his story different isn't traditional science, it's something far more controversial. Bentov discovered a way to communicate with the universe. He realized that our body, during deep states of consciousness, enters into resonance with the earth itself. And from this discovery, he reached a bold conclusion: the universe is not a distant space, indifferent to human beings. It responds to our emotions, our thoughts, and the vibrations we emit each day. And here's the point that might flip your mental switch. Perhaps you're creating your life exactly as it is right now, whether of difficulties or achievements, not because fate wanted it that way, but because you're transmitting a clear message to the universe without realizing it. The good news is that you can change this message. In this video, I'm going to show you the 5-step technique revealed from Itzhak Bentov's studies, so you can learn to align your mind and heart in a way that makes the universe start responding in your favor. So stick with me until the end, because when you understand this technique, you'll realize that the universe is already listening. The question is, what have you been transmitting to it? Part 1. If you stop to think about it for a moment, you'll realize that our grandparents' lives had a completely different rhythm from what we live today. They woke up early, took care of the family, worked hard, but in the midst of all this, there was space for calm. Time seemed to stretch out. Conversations were longer, silence had its place, and anxiety wasn't a constant visitor inside the mind. Today we live on another planet, even though we're on the same Earth. We're surrounded by notifications, by screens that never turn off, by an excess of information that steals our attention every second. This creates a permanent state of distraction, of nervousness, as if we're always late for something, even when we don't know what. And that's precisely why we need to learn to adapt consciously. Because technology won't slow down. The world won't get slower just because we wish it. If we want to thrive in this new scenario, we have to develop the ability to align ourselves with something greater than this rush. And this is where the story of an absolutely fascinating man comes in, Itzhak Bentov. Unlike so many mystics, Bentov didn't start as a spiritual seeker. He was born in Israel, was an inventor, a biomedical scientist, and built a solid career within the academic and technological world. He registered more than 30 patents, many of them applied in medicine. One of these inventions, a steerable cardiac catheter, continues to be used today in surgeries, saving thousands of lives worldwide. In other words, Bentov wasn't a dreamer lost in daydreams. He was an extremely practical man, accustomed to dealing with data, experiments, and objective results. But life, sometimes, puts science face to face with mystery. And it was during his meditation practices that he noticed something that would change everything. While meditating, Bentov noticed that his body didn't remain in complete silence. It vibrated. Yes, it vibrated as if traversed by invisible waves, almost like a musical instrument being played by forces beyond conscious control. Instead of ignoring it or thinking it was a hallucination, he decided to investigate. He placed sensors, measuring devices, and began to study what was happening inside him in these altered states of consciousness. What he found was revolutionary. He realized that the human body, during deep meditations, enters into a vibration of approximately 7 to 8 Hz. Now, if you've never heard of this number, it might seem like a technical detail. But it's not. This value corresponds exactly to the Schumann resonance, which is like the heartbeat of the Earth itself, the natural frequency of the electromagnetic field that surrounds the planet. This wasn't coincidence. It was attunement. The human body, in a deep state of inner silence, aligned with the planet's own frequency. This discovery shook everything Bentov believed, because it showed that human beings aren't separate from the Earth. We are part of the same vibrational field, connected like instruments tuned to play the same music. Meditation ceased to be, for him, just a practice of relaxation or subjective spirituality. It became a tool for connection with the cosmos itself. From this point on, Bentov began to look at life differently. The universe was no longer just that immense space out there, distant, untouchable. It was happening right here inside, in every heartbeat, in every breath cycle. What we feel, think, and project isn't something isolated. It's a wave that travels through this field and finds a response. And here's the turning point. If our body can align with the Earth, if our heartbeats can vibrate in tune with the planet, what happens when our consciousness expands even further? Could it be that, just as the body connects to the Earth's field, the mind also connects to the universe's own field? When Bentov realized that the human body could enter into resonance with the Earth, he opened a door that would forever change the way we understand reality. And this door leads us to a central idea. The universe is not just a physical space out there, full of planets, stars, and galaxies. The universe is also a mirror of what we carry within us. Think with me. If everything vibrates at a certain frequency, and if our body has already proven capable of aligning with planetary frequencies, then what happens with our thoughts and emotions? They also have frequency. It's no coincidence that when we're joyful, things seem to flow better, and when we're full of anger or fear, life seems to stall. It's as if the universe responds not to our words, but to the energy we emit through our emotions. This is the most important point to understanding reality. The universe reacts to our vibration, not to our rational discourse. There's no point in saying, "I want prosperity," if inside the person vibrates scarcity, fear, and insecurity. It's like trying to tune a radio. If you turn the dial to the wrong frequency, no matter how many times you ask, the music won't play. Energy is the universal language. Itzhak Bentov believed that the universe is a direct extension of consciousness. This means that the reality we live isn't something fixed, hard, immutable. It's malleable. It responds to what we project from the focus of our attention. What you're living today is, in large part, the result of what your mind and heart have been emitting in recent years. And this isn't cheap motivational talk, it's a law of how the field we're inserted in operate. And here emerges a powerful detail. Most people don't realize how much they're creating unwanted realities simply by sustaining a negative vibrational state. If you wake up and start the day complaining, grumbling, getting irritated, your whole body enters a vibration pattern that will attract more situations in the same tune. The universe doesn't judge, it doesn't separate, this is good or this is bad. It simply responds to the frequency. On the other hand, when you learn to change your focus, when you begin to cultivate a vibration of gratitude, confidence, and clarity, the reality around you begins to adjust. The right people emerge, opportunities appear, doors open. Not because some invisible being decided to reward you, but because you adjusted your internal frequency and, with that, attracted a field of compatible experiences. Notice how revolutionary this is. It means you're not a victim of life. You're not condemned to bad luck, to suffering, to the repetition of bad patterns. The universe isn't a judge, it's a mirror. And if it's a mirror, everything you throw at it through your feelings and thoughts comes back to you in the form of concrete experience. The most fascinating thing is that we don't need to wait for miracles or external changes to experience this truth. We can start now, changing what we feel and think. We can experiment with how life responds in different ways when our energy changes. The universe is constantly sending back signals, constantly reflecting what we send out. And this is where the practical key emerges. If everything responds to our vibration, how can we consciously direct this vibration? How do we direct this consciousness so that reality becomes an ally and not a burden? Here's a simple but powerful principle. Everything we put attention on grows. You can observe this in your own life. If a person spends the whole day talking about problems, complaining, vibrating over what doesn't work, what happens? More problems appear, more negative situations arise, and life becomes a cycle of repetition. It's not punishment, it's vibrational response. The universe functions as an amplifier. takes what you emit and returns it on an amplified scale. And that's why we need to learn to direct focus consciously. Bentov had already shown that body vibration can align with the earth. Now imagine when you also align your thoughts and feelings. It's as if, suddenly, you start tuning into the right station of life, and what seems stuck begins to flow. But how do we put this into practice? Here comes a simple yet transformative technique. I call it the 5 steps to speak with the universe. It's not cheap mysticism, it's consciousness training. It's learning to use your mind and heart as transmitters of a clear message that the universal field understands effortlessly. The first step is paying attention to focus. Because focus is like the conductor of an orchestra. Where you place your energy, that grows. If your attention is turned only toward problems, guess what expands? More problems. Now, when you begin to direct your gaze toward solutions, toward growth, toward what's already working, your reality begins to adjust. The universe doesn't understand, "I don't want this." It only understands what you feed with your energy. The second step is living in the present. This may sound simple, but it's one of humanity's greatest challenges. Most people are always stuck in the past, reliving old pains, or projecting happiness into the future. When I have that, then I'll be happy. But the universe only responds to now. When you vibrate scarcity today, there's no point in saying that in the future you'll be prosperous. The vibration of the present is what creates the conditions of tomorrow. You must affirm, feel, and live abundance now. The third step is intentional communication. Not only with others but with yourself. The words you use shape your subconscious. Repeatedly saying, "I'm never lucky," isn't just venting, it's an order that the subconscious records and the universe responds to. Conversely, when you communicate consciously, you reprogram your internal and external fields simultaneously. The fourth step is listening to your internal system. Your feelings are a compass. Enthusiasm shows you're aligned with the right direction, while fear or contraction shows that something needs to be adjusted. It's not about eliminating fear, but learning to read internal signals as guides. And the fifth step is positive repetition. The subconscious learns through repetition. It's not enough to say it once. You must insist, feel, affirm with faith and emotion. Each time you repeat a positive message, you reinforce a vibrational frequency that, little by little, becomes your natural reality. These 5 steps aren't just a mental technique, but a way of life. They're a way to reorganize your energy and begin to dialogue with the universe clearly. And when this practice becomes constant, the field begins to respond in a way so evident it almost seems like magic. But does all this really work in everyday life? Can an ordinary person, full of difficulties, transform their life just by applying these principles? You might be wondering, okay, but does this really work in practice? Can anyone change their life just by applying these principles? The answer is yes. And to show this, I want to share a simple but extremely powerful story. There was a man who, for years, defined himself in a very clear way: "I'm unlucky." This phrase became almost like a personal brand. He said it to friends, repeated it to family, and, worse still, fed this idea within himself every day. Guess what happened? His life reflected exactly that. Nothing worked out. There was always an unforeseen event, a business that didn't go forward, a situation that confirmed what he already believed. The universe simply returned the frequency he emitted. But, in a moment of exhaustion, when it seemed nothing would change, he decided to try something different. At first even with distrust, but he decided to change the phrase, "I'm unlucky," to a new affirmation: "God loves me, everything works out for me." This small communication change wasn't an immediate magical act. In the first days, he still carried doubt, still felt resistance. But something inside him insisted on continuing. He repeated this phrase every day, many times without truly believing, but with the decision that he would reprogram his own mind. And what began to happen was subtle at first. Small situations began to work out. Different people appeared along the way. Businesses that previously didn't prosper began to move forward. What before seemed like a constant block began to dissolve. Until, after a while, the change became undeniable. The man who previously defined himself as unlucky was now living prosperity, building healthy relationships, and enjoying a business that finally bore fruit. What changed? It wasn't the external world, it was the internal frequency. Positive repetition reprogrammed his subconscious, and this new vibration began to create another reality. This is what we call vibrational faith. It's not believing in loose words, but sustaining a new frequency until it becomes the foundation of your life. And here's the key that many people still don't understand. Faith isn't waiting for something to happen to only then believe. Faith is sustaining the vibration even when there's no visible proof yet. It's like planting a seed. You don't see the fruit on the same day, but if you keep watering it, inevitably it will sprout. This is also how the energy we emit works. Itzhak Bentov showed, through his studies, that the human body could align with the Earth's heartbeat. But what this story shows us is that the mind and heart can also align with a frequency of abundance, harmony, prosperity. And when this happens, life has no choice but to respond in the same measure. Now, stop and think. How many phrases have you been repeating without realizing? How many "I can't," "that's not for me," "I'm not lucky" are programming your mind without you noticing? Perhaps it's time to exchange these words for new affirmations that truly build the life you desire. Because if an unlucky man managed to change his own reality just by changing the way he spoke and felt, what could happen if you started today repeating phrases that sustain the future you dream of? Think carefully. How many times have you repeated negative phrases, believed in limitations, and put yourself in tune with what you didn't want to live? How many opportunities may have gone unnoticed because your vibration wasn't adjusted to what you truly desired? This is the moment to flip the switch. The universe doesn't respond to your words, it responds to what you vibrate. And if you change the way you vibrate, you'll inevitably change the results you receive. So I ask you, which step will you start practicing today? Which phrase or belief will you replace from now on? Write here in the comments because I want to know what will be your first movement of transformation. And of course, if this video opened your mind, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications, because I'll continue bringing content that expands consciousness and shows in practice how you can align your life with the universe.